Let's work toward more fullness in Upavistha Konasana. It's a wide angle seated pose. Alignment in this pose for many of us is very complicated. We often see people with their chest and chin on the floor in pictures of this pose. We're not going there. We're just working on the inner thighs, the hamstrings, just getting a little bit more pelvic movement while keeping a nice alignment to the thoracic spine and the shoulders. We'll begin standing. Come to a wide stance in your standing position. A teacher of mine said a great way to determine wide is if you had a string at your wrist and the string went all the way to the ankle, would it touch the ankle? It's a little hard to tell exactly, but that's a nice measurement for many of us. If in this position you feel like there's too much pulling behind the knee or the inner groin muscles feel overly stretched, then bend your knees, pull your feet in toward each other, place your hands to your low back, draw your elbows in toward each other, and just come to a simple forward fold here. We will only go halfway down. Inhale, pull your feet in toward one another and rise up. We'll do that a few more times. With your feet in this wide stance, your hands to your low back, your elbows drawing in so that you get this nice openness to the heart. Possibly your knees are slightly bent. Pull your feet in toward each other as you come halfway down and do it slowly, so that you can give yourself time to engage the legs nicely. Pull your feet in toward one another and rise up. Now let's free the arms. On the next in-breath, reach your arms forward and keep on reaching the arms forward as you take the tops of the thighs back. You get a nice fullness from the pelvis all the way to the armpit and out through the fingertips. Now allow the fingers to come to the floor. See if you can keep a nice elongated spine with the fingers on the floor. If not, if you feel rounding in the spine, it's time to grab your blocks so that you can keep that nice elongation of the spine as you draw down just slightly. So this is the form of Upavistha Konasana, but of course we're in the standing position, but it allows us to have a little bit more freedom in the actions. Now pull the legs in toward each other. Take the hands to your low back. Keep on pulling the legs strongly in toward each other to rise up, to come out of the pose. We'll do a third wide leg standing position. As you step wide, from a wide stance, bend your right knee. With the right knee bent, right knee going forward, just take the forearm down to the top of the thigh. Keep on moving the left inner thigh back. Touch your left hand to the earth. Draw your heart down. Inhale. Place your hands to your low back again and rise up. Bend your left knee. As you draw the left knee forward, the top of the right thigh moves back. You feel a nice elongation going on the right inner thigh. Take your left forearm down. Reach your right hand down. And just pause here. Allow the pelvis to move very nicely, to draw the inner thigh back so that your sit bones feel like they're getting wider apart. Place both hands to the low back and rise up. Now that you've got the idea of that action, let's do a little variation to it. Bend your right knee again. Keep the left leg straight. This time, reach down for the outer right leg. As you do, come toward a straight right leg. Release by taking your left hand back to your low back and rise up, other side. Bend your left knee, take the top of the right thigh back, draw your heart down and reach for the outer left shin to draw your right ribs closer to the left knee. Place your hands to your low back. Come back through center to rise up. Now heel toe your feet in toward each other. And with your feet hip distance apart, let's see if we can get a little bit more pelvic movement here. As you bend your knees, place your hands right above your knees. On your in-breath, lift your chin, open your chest nicely. On your out-breath, just look in toward your heart. In-breath has the heart move forward, the chin lift. Exhale, just getting nice movement there of the pelvis. Lift your sit bones as you draw your heart forward. Look in toward your heart as you draw from the navel back to the spine. And inhale, lift your sit bones. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Open your chest. Extend your arms up. Have this nice fullness. Exhale. Draw from the navel back. Inhale and exhale. Now place your hands to your low back and come to a standing pose so that you can come through squat to sit down for Upavistha Konasana. So as you come to the squat position, I like the action of reaching your arms out so that you keep this nice balanced action, and it slows you down as you come to sit on the mat. As you sit on the mat, have your feet go nice and wide apart. And with the feet wide apart, with your knees slightly lifted, you can engage more fully with the knees lifted, your feet in this dorsiflexion. Keep the right knee bent, straighten the left, and reach over toward the right leg. And inhale, come up. Now bend the left knee, straighten the right, and twist again, and reach toward the foot so that you get this nice length of the side body while engaging the legs, and straighten the leg. With your legs drawing toward a straight position, do you find that your spine is kind of rounding? If so, place your hands just near your pelvis to get a nice elongation. Keeping the legs as straight as possible, and if it's not possible, by all means, bend your knees, but keep your feet in that dorsiflexion. Draw your heart forward as the hands help you stay forward on your sits bones. Inhale and come back. For many of us, we need a little elevation. And I have a few options for elevation. Most of us have a blanket or a towel, and that might be easiest for you. I like sitting right on the corner of the blanket where both sit bones can be grounded, but the blanket doesn't get in the way of your thigh. So as you sit on that tiny triangle at the corner, you can extend your legs. You have the elevation. You're starting to get more lumbar curve as you draw forward in the pose. Another option I also like are blocks. You can take your blocks together. Or I'm using this block that I also use for shoulder stand. So as you place your block, you get a little elevation. This elevation really helps you keep forward on your sits bones in this pose. With your second toes looking straight up, your kneecaps looking straight up, reach your arms forward, reach forward, get plenty of length, and rise up. Let's do that a few more times. Just reach forward and rise up. Reach forward and rise up. Release your hands down. One of the stranger ways that I've practiced this is to grab hold of a radiator, and as I held on to that radiator, which of course was so solid, I could pull myself in toward the radiator. Of course, it didn't work in winter when the radiator was very hot, but it served to provide that stability I needed to just practice elongating the spine and keeping the inner thighs down. I don't recommend it, but we all come up with but it's fun to come up with different options on going deeper in your poses. One of the options that I like actually is to bend the knees, and instead of holding onto a radiator, see if you can get your hands to the base of your toes. Press your toes into your fingers. As you press your toes into your fingers, notice how you can draw your heart forward. You can come more forward on your sits bones, and see about just taking your heels just a little bit further away from your pelvis. Bend your elbows. Keep on drawing the feet a little bit farther so that you go a little bit deeper in your pose. And slowly come out of the pose. So with a little elevation and with some resistance to the feet, you can keep the legs very active and fire up the inner thigh muscles nicely. There are many options in working on this pose. Some people work at the wall with their legs facing the wall with the legs nice and wide. For my own practice, I didn't find that so useful. I have found that as you bend the knees and find your feet, lift your feet up just to balance yourself, taking the feet wide apart with your knees bent. You just practice on keeping the legs very active. If you can, straighten your legs by all means. Just play with the action of the legs, nice openness to the heart, this nice fullness to your pose, and release. So there are many different ways to practice this pose, whether it be standing or balancing at the wall. But as you move closer to it, rather than the image of chest and chin to the floor, can you keep this image of elongating the spine as you draw yourself into the pose that's right for you? We'll continue our work on that pose. Thanks for joining me in discovering different options in a way that honors the alignment of the spine, the engagement of the legs, and the movement of the pelvis in Upavistha Konasana. Namaste.